on the show you play Cameron in this current season. So, what was it about that character and the show overall that really convinced you to want to be a part of the series?
Uh, well, I mean, Aaron Sorkin's writing, first and foremost, is why I wanted to be a part of the series. Um, I play the lead of the advanced team on the show, and one of my best friends works in politics, and he worked for one of the two presidential campaigns in the 2012 election. I've been asked not to say which one, but I knew a fair amount about politics before I auditioned, but I never knew what an advanced team was. And basically what it is, it's the person that's in charge of the scheduling and the media for a candidate. And I've heard a lot of great writer friends say, all great teams, all great stories start with conflict. And as an actor, if you get to play the conflict, that's a gift. That really is. It's John Gallagher's story. He's the one that leaves the newsroom and goes on to the omnibus in these first few episodes that you've seen. And the conflict, at least in the beginning for him, is getting on to the bus, and then if you saw last week's episode, getting questions answered. And I get to play a major part of that conflict, and that's a lot of fun, and that gives you a lot to do as an actor, which is a real gift. And plus, anytime you get to say anything written by the legendary Aaron Sorkin, it's the dream come true.
And speaking of Aaron Sorkin, he both is a writer and an executive producer on the series. So, have you gotten to maybe work with him at all? And what's it really like being on a series that he's so heavily involved with?
No. He's on set every day. He is the best. I don't know any other way to say it. He made me feel completely at ease and at home from day one. My first day, I'll be honest, there were some nerves mostly because I was such a huge fan of the show. And I wanted to get it just right. I wanted to do great because I was so passionate about the show already. It was my favorite show before I even auditioned. And so I got there, and it was 5:30 in the morning, and he was there, and he walked right up to me, and the sun wasn't even up yet, and he just came over and shook my hand. He goes, "Joel, thanks for joining us. You're gonna be great on the show." And that was like all I needed. It was just, it was so inviting, and then his support and enthusiasm for actors only grew from there, from what I saw for everybody. He's really, it's so exciting to watch him work. And he said something when he won his Oscar for the Social Network. He said something to the effect of thanking his agent for covering up the fact that he would happily do his job for free, and which I love. But you absolutely get that sense when you're on set with him that he loves this so much. It's not work. It's play. It's what he would be doing no matter what.
And like you mentioned earlier about the politics and the presidential campaign, your character on the show is the head of the advanced team for Mitt Romney's presidential campaign. So, how much knowledge did you really have on that aspect of the political campaign? And did you do any particular research when you first signed on for the role into that side of politics?
Yeah. Well, you always, as an actor, you always want to do research, and sometimes it's helpful, and sometimes it isn't. But even when it isn't, you get to say, okay, I've explored that. I don't have to worry about that. But for me, it definitely helped. One of the things Aaron does that's incredibly helpful, if you've seen the show, he gives you the exact day and time that this happened in history, in recent history. And you get, for me, I think the first episode was like August 23rd, 2011, I think. And all I had to do was, usually you have to really dig deep and find, whatever. But for me, you just get to start with Okay, Googling August 23rd, 2011, New Hampshire Mitt Romney campaign, and you get minute by minute um, the thousands of hits of what was happening, um, what the pulse was like. For me, it was kind of fun because Mitt Romney was behind in the polls at that time, so it was, I would imagine, a very tense time in any campaign trail when you're running behind. And my buddy who has worked on a lot of campaigns always reinforces that you are always in jeopardy of losing your job because your employer is always in jeopardy of losing. And it takes one small thing to spin out of control and it's all over. So, to have that as the groundwork of your research, like, okay, we are behind, we're in New Hampshire, things have not been going on in this campaign, that lays solid foundation for a lot of the research that I did. And then I just researched the ins and outs of presidential campaigns a lot after that, not just Mitt Romney's, but others as well. And it was all very eye-opening and helpful.
And on the show, Cameron often clashes with Jim Harper, who's played by John Gallagher Jr. So, what's your working relationship with John like on the set?
John is the nicest guy on the planet. He's just, on top of that, he is a genius actor. I mean, he's um, amazingly talented, and he sings on top of it. I mean, it's just so like one guy just really has it all. He really does. um, John made me feel at home from minute one. He was really inviting and really great, and gives you a lot to work with as an actor, and it's just um, really a lot of fun to be around, and that's all you can ask for. He's just I loved watching him work because he's just so talented.
And besides John, the cast overall really features a diverse set of actors as well, such as like Jeff Daniels and Olivia Munn. So, what's it like working with all of them overall on the set?
Uh, I, I've rarely been around such a amazingly talented group of actors. Watching Jeff at table reads is just like you feel like you're watching a master conductor in concert because he makes it look so effortless and fluid, and he's so precise. It's brilliant, and everybody on the show, I was just amazed at how exceptional everybody was at even just starting at the table reads, which um, is just impressed the heck out of me and really made me want to step up my game that much more.
And another series I wanted to ask you about that you're going to be on is Getting On, which is also going to be playing on HBO, and you've been cast as Andrew on that series. So, what was it about that character and that storyline overall that really convinced you to take on that role?
Um, I play a doctor. My grandfather was the doctor, so that was a great. I think he always wanted me to be a doctor, so this is my way of um, uh, making that sort of pseudo come true. Um, but mainly, Mark Fuels and Will Sheffer, who are the writer creators of Big Love, adapted this series from the BBC version under the same title, and it's an amazingly heartfelt, hilarious comedy. And if you've seen the British version, it's again another actor's dream to work in a show like this, and I get to be surrounded by more wonderful actors and actresses um, in the way of Alex Borstein, Niecy Nash, and Laurie Metcalf.
And speaking of that British version, as well, were you familiar at all with that series before you signed on to this role overall?
I was. I was not familiar with it until I watched. I think I watched the whole first season before I went into my first audition. And anybody who hasn't seen it, there's several places you can stream it online. Um, and I think it's even on YouTube, where you can just go and watch it. And it is, I strongly encourage everybody to see it if they haven't already. It's wonderful and beautiful and hilarious, and I think that this adaptation that HBO is doing is going to be that much more rewarding, because people that have seen it already, fans will know it and recognize it, and people that haven't, I think, are going to fall in love with it.